So I should probably address the fact that I cut my hair, actually. I just filmed a whole other intro and realised that, like, elephant in the room, the last time I filmed, not only was I in a slightly different location, but I looked different. I had different hair. So yeah, I have chopped the fringe purely as a result of lockdown boredom. Actually, I did it myself, so to any hairdressers watching, or brand Mondo, I'm ever so sorry. I'm sure that I've done a technically terrible job, but it's fine. Although I've messed it up to the point now that there's hairs in my eyes. We're just going to swiftly move on. So, hello, I am Bethan from Red Digital and Events. And if you're new here, firstly, hi, please subscribe. And as a little bit of an intro, I am the owner of a digital marketing agency called Red Digital and Events. And our whole motto, our whole mission is to help small to medium-sized businesses to grow their businesses by reaching a large audience online through social media, through email marketing, through website creation, all of the digital stuff we do. But I also offer consultancy services. So if you're wanting to do that in-house, please don't write us off. I could still potentially help you to come up with strategies or to upskill you in some things maybe you need a little bit of help with. Anyway, on to today's video. With 2021 actually very quickly coming around the corner, I wanted to talk about a strategy that I have just started to implement with Red Digital and one that I would recommend to some of you. And that is to create a podcast. Now, the podcast era, I guess, has kind of been very much in waves. I remember when podcasts were first huge was when like the iPod Touch came out. And I think it was relatively a new feature for you to be able to upload podcasts through Apple specifically. And the whole idea of podcasting blew up. But I have to say things kind of died down for a little while and podcasting wasn't a very popular form of communication. But over the last 2 years, I would say, maybe even slightly longer, there has been a resurgence in podcasting. And although it's not as easy to get into as it once was, and I think part of the reason why it was so successful is because it was really underutilized by most people. So you might have noticed actually, even if you're not hugely into podcasts, that there seems to be a huge influx of influencers and celebrities with their own podcasts these days. So whether it be like, I swear the entire Bravo cast has their own podcast, or a few influencers here on YouTube. I know Remy Ashton and Alicia Marie have a joint podcast. Gabby Hanna. If you're familiar with any of these people, I'm just trying to give you context. If not, don't worry. But yeah, just to kind of make it clear just how successful podcasts have been. Now, at this point, I am going to carry on talking about it, but I do want to signpost you to somebody who does a brilliant job at talking about podcasts and how to succeed with one. So if after this video you decide that I'm right and you should make the leap into podcasting, I would recommend looking out for content from a gentleman called Mark Asquith, the podcast guy. Apologies if I've pronounced your surname wrong, Mark. He is somebody I met at a conference a couple of years ago and he was brilliant and I was like, oh okay, Christ, I need to make a podcast tomorrow. But he does a lot of content on kind of those first hurdles of getting started, and he actually has a membership platform which you can sign on to if you want more information on that. But for the purpose of today's video, we've got a limited amount of time and I'm going to focus on the strategy behind podcasts and why I would kind of recommend it. So firstly, I've talked about video content and how I think that's very important. One of the things that podcasting can do is kind of double up as some long form video content for you. So you can invite a guest on, or you can podcast alone and turn this into two different pieces of content. So you can have the video on YouTube and strip the video and just put the audio onto a podcast. It sounds technical, but it's super easy to do. It's like as simple as a click of a button when you've finished editing your video. And then you get two for the price of one. More bang for your buck there. That if people prefer to listen on podcasts and they're frustrated with the fact that you only do video, you kind of cover that new audience. But also it gives you more opportunity to get your name out there and hopefully have more people stumble upon your content. It also gives you a chance to kind of quite passionately talk about your business, your industry, and things that you care about if you're creating a podcast for the sake of business, that is. So whether it be a kind of business support, business management podcast, or a business solely focused on your industry and why you love what you do, it really gives you that good opportunity to talk freely about it. And I think that is the number one way to have your potential customers hear your passion and hear your love for what you do, because you can say over writing, you can say over social media posts and over text on your website that like, we are so passionate, we love what we do, we've been doing it for 25 years because it's just a joy to us. But that's easy to say when you're saying it in text, whereas when you're actually speaking, and even on video actually, it's a lot harder to fake that. Podcasting gives you a little bit of freedom with what you're talking about, that you don't have to be so structured. You can kind of run off on a tangent because it's a podcast. That's what people are there to do, is to listen to you talk. So you don't have to be quite so formal as some other types of content creation. And I often find that I cannot sign a client over email. So I have stopped doing any alternatives. I don't email potential clients back and forth over and over. I arrange a call because it's the only way for me to really speak about what I'm doing, explain what Red is, and that comes across. So my conversion rates are really high, and I even get from clients of mine now who come across these videos. So hi, if you're watching this is a little bit weird because I know you in real life. But thank you for the support, and I often hear back like, wow, I can see how passionate you are, or the I didn't realise how much you know kind of thing will come back as feedback. But another really great way to utilise podcasting is by the whole idea of inviting guests on. So yes, in some cases they will be your competitors, but that is fine because you are building a relationship with a competitor. That means that it's not so fraught, and maybe you can end up working on a collaboration project in the future. But you also can nitpick and point out potential guests that you want to interact with to get them on the show. So rather than trying to get in touch with somebody by sending them an email like, hey, I would love to arrange a quick phone call to talk about my services, but saying instead, hey, I would love to arrange half an hour of your time to hop on a podcast with me and you can get to talk about your business. Now, doesn't that sound like a winner? Doesn't that sound like the perfect opportunity to get a future potential client of yours to start a warm relationship with you? So a good example of this is if you're like a supplier of a product, you could invite somebody on who uses that product in their day-to-day business and ask them why they ended up doing what they're doing, and try and do an interview of like showing the other side of my industry. But that's your client. You can then ask them to buy the product that they need for their job from you. Or in my case, I could invite people onto a podcast and ask them how they got to where they did in their marketing. And I have every intention of doing it, and not solely as a sales tactic, but absolutely, do I want to build more relationships with more businesses? Yes. So a great way to do that for me is by inviting them onto a quick podcast, a quick 15-20 minute podcast interview where I find out more about what they've done in their marketing journey so far. And maybe I'm able to outline some gaps in that and pitch them a proposal of what Red Digital could do for them to fill in those gaps. So it's a really underutilized way of not only making content for all the rest of the world to see and to promote your business and to promote your industry that way, but also to actually make direct contact with potential customers of yours without doing it in a salesy way and without being awkward and uncomfortable. And if you're anything like me, I hate picking up the phone and going, "Hi, can I speak to whoever deals with your marketing? I'd love to pitch them my services." It's honestly nightmare inducing for me. I hate it because it doesn't feel genuine, and that's not something that I ordinarily would do. So rather, I actually am interested and I'm curious in knowing more about what they've done with their marketing, what works for them, what hasn't worked for them, why this hasn't worked, maybe you need to try X, Y, Z. So I know this video has been quite specific around how I'm planning on utilising it, and that's because there are so many businesses and so many industries that I don't quite know where to start other than from home. So please feel free to comment your business and ask the question if you're not sure on how you could utilise podcasting for your business. Now, I hope this has been helpful and maybe given you some ideas for your next year's marketing strategy plan, and I wish you all the best. I will be back soon with another video. Thanks a lot. Bye.